guys, ya sabes que to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making banana cake. Everyone has bananas that are about to go bad in their house. Maybe you have a few in your freezer, because if you didn't already know, you can just put them in a freezer bag and they stay fresh in the freezer for months, and then you can use those to make this banana cake. It's delicious. It's so easy to make. Adults and kids, everyone likes it. I made it at least once a week while I was on my vacation in Greece this summer. It was one of the very few things that I did make because I hardly cooked. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get started making this delicious cake. So we're gonna start with the dry ingredients first because I'm using one whisk for everything. If you start with the wet, you're gonna have to wash it or take out another whisk, and who wants to wash extra things? Definitely not me. So in this bowl over here, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. That's about 300 grams. I also have 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. To that, I'm gonna add some ground cinnamon. So 1/2 teaspoon is what my recipe calls for. I always go a little bit heavier on every single recipe that has cinnamon in it if it's a dessert, because I love the flavor that it lends. And that's it. For the dry, I'm just gonna whisk them all together. You can sift if you wanted to, but it's really not necessary for this cake. Got some out of the bowl, and I'm gonna set that aside. Now for the bananas, I use 4 bananas. They should be pretty ripe. And like I said, if you have bananas laying around that are about to go bad, just put them in a Ziploc freezer bag, and then you can take them out whenever you need them, and you never have to throw bananas away. They're good in smoothies, they're good in cakes. And the best thing about this recipe is that you don't need a mixer for this. You do everything in a big bowl. So mash the bananas with a fork. So to the bananas, I'm gonna add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. I'm also gonna add 2 eggs, and you want them to be at room temperature. I'm just gonna whisk the eggs right here at the side, on the side of the bowl. Again, the less things that there are to wash, the better it is for me. I think for you too. I don't think anybody enjoys washing dishes. So I have a stick of unsalted butter. A stick is basically 113 grams. When I was in Greece, they didn't sell butter by the stick like this. They sell it either in like a 1/2 pound stick or a 1 pound big block of butter. So I probably used to put a little bit more than this, but 1 stick is really all you need. I'm gonna pop this in the microwave to melt it. I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt to the batter. And again, I'm just gonna mix that all together. We also need a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And I like to add baking soda to the wet ingredients. Sometimes if baking soda is not properly incorporated in the dry ingredient and you get a bite of that in the cake, it's super bitter. I like to, put it in the wet ingredients so that way it dissolves. And the butter has melted. I always like to melt the butter with the paper that it's wrapped in, because then I can use the paper to grease the pan that I'm using. And I'm gonna be using a 9 by 13 inch baking dish, but you could also use a 9-inch round springform pan. I'm gonna save the wrapper in there. I'm gonna grease the pan in a little bit. I'm gonna add the melted butter to the batter. I'll turn the cup upside down so that way whatever butter is left in there can just go into the pan. And that's it. The wet ingredients are done. Now I'm gonna add the flour ingredients, which are the dry ingredients, a little bit at a time. And you might be wondering why sugar is considered a wet ingredient. It's because it just melts in with the other ingredients, and it's always added with wet. So I'm just mixing in the flour a little bit at a time. Do this in like 3 or 4 batches. So once the flour is almost or pretty much incorporated, just switch to a spatula and just mix it in one final time, just so that way you don't see the flour anymore. You don't want to overmix cake, otherwise it's going to be very dense and more like a banana bread. So the reason this is a cake and not a bread is because of the baking powder that's in there. It's going to make it rise, and it's going to be a little more fluffier. This is more like a cake that you serve with tea or coffee. So it's really nice and light and moist and just so delicious. So I'm going to just grease this pan right here. Like I said, I'm using a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, but I have made it in a 9-inch round springform pan. If you make it in a springform pan, it's gonna be a much thicker cake. And that's good if you wanna use it for a birthday cake and you wanna slice it in half and fill it with like Nutella or cream cheese icing or something like that. But if you wanna serve it kind of like rustic and old style, go ahead and use a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, and it also bakes faster in this pan. So in the baking pan, it'll be ready in about 25 minutes. And in the springform round pan, because it's deeper, it's gonna take about 45 to 50 minutes. So go ahead and spread the batter. And you can definitely throw in some dark chocolate chips in here. You can put some Nutella on the top in portions and then just swirl it in. You can put some walnuts in here, any dried fruit. You can really, there's so many ways to make it, but I'm gonna keep it simple. Spread the batter all around, and my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is gonna bake on the center rack for, again, about 25 minutes. Go in and check it at the 20-minute mark. When a toothpick that's inserted in the center comes out clean or with some moist crumbs attached, then it's ready. Take it out, let it cool completely, and then we're gonna dust it with powdered sugar and serve it with some coffee. All right, so the cake was ready in exactly 25 minutes. You wanna let it cool completely before you go ahead and cut into it. Set it aside, run a butter knife all around the edges to kind of release the cake. And in about 20 minutes, it should be ready to be served. Make some Greek coffee. Now you can top this simply with powdered sugar like I did, or you can drizzle some chocolate hazelnut spread like Nutella or merenda or something like that. You can make a cream cheese icing if you want to get really decadent and put that. You can just spread that nicely all over the top or drizzle it on top. You can do it however you want. I like to do some powdered sugar on top of this because I like to have this with my coffee and I don't want it to be too sweet. It's super moist. Put it on a plate and you'll see just how moist it is when I cut into it. Time to do the taste test. It's so comforting, so simple to make. Never let those bananas go to waste. Always have some Greek coffee on hand. Oh my God, it's so good. This is reminding me of Greece. I made it every week for the kids. They loved it. I used to drizzle lots of merenda on top. Merenda is basically the Greek version of Nutella. It's a chocolate hazelnut spread that's so good. Goes so well with bananas. I hope you guys give it a try. All of the exact measurements are on the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. Grab the link, make it, let me know what you think, and I'll be back here next time with another delicious recipe worth sharing. Yes, sis.